Drawing other people's characters is great. The brain part, the designing of the character's clothes or uniform, the character's accessories, it's all done for you, letting you concentrate on the fun stuff, like a solid action pose. I just completed this commission of Rie Akagi, God, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, for 99 level games Kickstarter for their Bullet Universe Bullet Hell card game. I'm going to take you through my process for doing these types of commissions. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about how I got this gig because I think it's pretty interesting. I don't know a lot about the tabletop game space, so I had never heard of Level 99 Games until someone I follow tweeted out a link to their blog. In 2 weeks, we're going to launch the new Kickstarter project, Bullet Universe, which includes reprints of all the Bullet projects as well as 2 new expansions. A modern board game Kickstarter project, even one that's for a fairly well-known brand like Bullet, puts a lot of work into advertising. Typically, we spend anywhere from 15 to 25% of a project's budget on ads and direct marketing. Ads can be effective. At the same time, I hate that I'm pushing all this money towards big corporations like Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit, which are actively making the world a worse place for all of us. I discussed these feelings with the team, and they were met with agreement all around. After those talks, we decided to try a different marketing tactic this time. One that I'm really excited to share with you. We're taking all of the money that we would have spent on ads for Bullet and using it to commission a wide variety of independent artists to draw and share our original characters. Hell to the yeah. Unfortunately, I heard about this when the campaign was already half over, and I figured they'd probably already contacted the artists that they wanted to work with in the first place. But fuck it. You never know until you ask, so I sent them a message.
Hello. I'm definitely late to the party, but I just saw your update about commissioning art instead of running ads for Bullet, and I think that's absolutely amazing! If my style fits, I would love to participate in the campaign. Here's my portfolio, jamienoguchi.com. I look forward to working with you. Cheers! Jamie Noguchi. Why do I sound off like I'm British?
And they got back to me.
Hey, Jamie. Saw your message, and I thought your style would be awesome to see our heroines in. We're looking to commission some art for our Bullet Hell board game and have the artist post it on Twitter, too. You can see some examples by checking out the hashtag #BulletUniverse. This is an initiative where we're putting a spotlight on the art community instead of just throwing money at ads. Regards, Marco.
They have a pretty big lineup of characters to choose from, so I asked if there were any that they haven't gotten as many versions of, and I chose Rie Akagi. They sent over her card illustrations from the game, along with a model sheet and a short description of her personality and power set. Time to commission. Step 1. Do nothing. After stuffing the brief, the model sheet, and the current card illustrations into my brain meats, I like to kind of let them swirl around a bit and bounce off the other stuff that's already been shoved up in there. Ideas kind of come from everywhere, from things I've seen to things I've read, songs I've heard, experiences in the past, dreams I've forgotten. It helps to have other projects to work on during this step of the process to occupy my deliberate brain and let the idea part of my brain do its wibbly wobbly thing, making random connections from even more random stuff. Step 2, sketch out my favorite ideas. I like to give the client 3 ideas to choose from. They absolutely have to be things that I want to draw. I don't want to give the client a chance to choose an idea that's not as exciting to me because it will be a miserable experience trying to make that thing look good. And inevitably, the client will pick the one that you have the least confidence in. Commissions should be fun and not feel like pulling your own teeth with rusty pliers. Step 3. Get to the drawing already. If I'm lucky, the client will pick something and not tell me to start over from scratch. Once they choose, it's go time.
Generally, I like to start with the face. It helps me ground the rest of the pose with the expression, which is kind of funny because in this case, client feedback came back and they said, we want to change the facial expression. So the pose still works, I think, but whatever. I also changed the angle of her baseball cap from the sketch so that you could see both of her eyes because they have that cool thing where they're different colors. I'm drawing this on a layer set to pink just to help me visually separate things in my mind. I use a lot of layers when I'm penciling in Clip Studio. And even when I'm inking, I usually use a lot of layers in the inking phase, and then I'll compress them all down to a single layer when it comes time to coloring. But for now, I put as many layers as I need to just to sort things for my brain meats. Here I start the jacket on another layer, setting that to purple, and I wanted to get that cape feel because I felt like there needed to be a little bit more motion in this pose. The bat is cool, but I think her clothing could help reinforce that. So I used the jacket as sort of a cape to kind of reinforce that motion. So the bat goes one way and the cape is flowing another way, just to kind of give you that sense of animation that I wanted to get out of this strong pose. Now comes the actual inking phase. If I remember to, I'll cut in with a full size of this section so you can see how gritty and dirty it looks when I'm inking. When you squish things and look at things from far away, everything looks like it's nice and clean. But if you zoomed in and saw how I actually ink, everything looks really rough. I use aliased lines when I ink, which is why I usually don't use Procreate when it comes time for published work or commission work that requires more inking, because I like using an alias brush. I'll maybe explain that in another video. You are going to see me redraw this hand a bajillion times. I even go back down to the sketch layer to remap things out. Sometimes hands come really quickly and you get it the first or second time. And then sometimes you can brain no longer and it just doesn't work for whatever reason, and you redraw and you redraw and you fix things and you redraw it and it doesn't look right, and you go around and around and around and around and around and around and around again until you get something that you can live with. It's never great, but you can live with it, and sometimes you need to just get to the point where you can live with it and move on. I'm drawing the bat and the hat and the jacket on separate layers because I wanted to make sure that my hair inking was on point. When I ink, I still like to get that feeling of drawing through an object. So in the instance of the hair, if the hair is being covered by a hat, I won't draw a line, stop at the hat, and continue it on the other side, because sometimes the lines don't quite match up. So I'll draw all the way through the hat on a separate layer, and then when it comes time to squash all the inks onto the same layer, I'll erase whatever errant marks are through the hat so it looks so it looks good. And here in Clip Studio, I'm using a vector line to get the full sweep, because those long lines are difficult to do with your hand. My hands are not that steady. Here I'm laying in the flats. I usually color in Photoshop, but for once I wanted to try to do everything in Clip Studio. You can see I managed to sneak in some of her back tattoo on her rib section on the left. Here I'm just filling everything out. Here comes the shading part. I took a dark purple, set it to multiply on another layer, and then I wanted to imply that the lighting was coming from the bat itself. So that's why you have a strong underlight of the face and a top light when it gets down to her foot. Here I'm sketching in the background. I wanted to really reinforce that wave motion from her bat swing, so you see what's going on there. I kind of felt that the initial colors were a little too bright, so I used a gradient to kind of tone them down, set to screen mode to get more separation between the character and the background, so they weren't all fighting for your attention, because they kind of had a similar saturation level. So I toned it down with some overlaying and then some effects and glows and all that good stuff, and then send it off to the client for feedback.
Love the pose, the colors, and the effects. I think the only point of feedback would be the face. It's a bit too long for Rie. She has a bit more of a rounded face, and her expression's a bit too mad or involved. She's a very strong character, so fighting is more like an exciting game where she squashes a bug. Other than that, it's great.
So, time to redo the face. I turned down the opacity on the main character, sketched in some lines to kind of get a new face shape, new smile, and then I inked, and then instead of setting everything back on layers and doing all the fun stuff, I just painted on top of what I already had. And once that was set, did the whole thing over again with the effects and all that kind of good stuff, sent it back to the client, and they approved, and here's the final.
So in general, this is how I tackle commissions, at least as of this recording. My process has definitely evolved over time, and I expect it will continue to change as I learn more techniques. Let me know if you're interested in seeing more process type stuff like this. I often forget to record what I'm working on, but also sometimes I don't want to spoil what I'm working on because it's usually comics and books and stuff, and so you gotta wait until it's all done and out to the publishers and all that kind of stuff. I do stuff for fun sometimes, so I will try to remember to record more of those sessions more often. Clip certainly makes that easy because it records your strokes, but if you want to see like an actual screen recording so you can see like the actual time lapse of stuff and you can see me just kind of zoning out and trying to think of stuff while you wait, well, nothing happens on screen, just let me know. Oh, and be sure to check out the Bullet Universe from Level 99 Games. The Kickstarter is done, but I will put links to where you can find the game down here. I'll also link the hashtag where you can check out all the other artists that were commissioned because the stuff is amazing. Some of the work there just blew me away. It's really cool. And I hope more companies in the gaming space do this kind of thing because it's really good to know that there are companies out there that still appreciate hand-drawn stuff, people-drawn stuff, you know? I don't have a suit jacket that fits me anymore, otherwise I would have that hanging off my shoulders like a badass, but, you know, I got a hat. I found a hat. I also don't have a bat anywhere, so I can't, so I don't know, man. I need to up my cosplay game if I'm gonna do stuff like this for the channel. All right, see ya. Thanks for watching.